Yes.
Phyllis is going to be showing some more of her moves a little bit later on. We're going to get the news, weather and travel where you are. Can I breathe a bit, Phyllis? I can't really breathe. Oh, thank goodness for that.
Hello again. Now, a 50-year-old science teacher remains in hospital this morning after being stabbed during a lesson in school.
Yeah, Vincent Azoma was attacked at Dixon's King's Academy in front of other students yesterday morning. A 14-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
Teaching unions point out that attacks like this are rare, but staff are facing a growing level of violence and bad behaviour generally. Latest figures show that around the UK there are 55 attacks on teachers in an average school day.
2/3 of primary school teachers said poor behaviour left them feeling stressed or depressed, and more than a third said they'd considered leaving as a result of behavioural problems.
We're joined now by teacher and writer Frances Gilbert, who's experienced violence in the classroom. Good to see you. So what has the violence been like that you've experienced then? What have you gone through?
I've had missiles thrown at me. I've had rip cans put on the chair where I've sat. I've been threatened with a knife. I've been punched and kicked quite a number of times, largely breaking up fights.
Frances, do the children that do these things to you, do they perceive them as aggressive threats, or do they see them in their own way as a bit of a prank?
Like Dennis the Menace or something?
Yeah, I think actually you're right. I had missiles, like pins put in blue tack and flicked at me, and I have to say that was the most dangerous thing I've faced, you know, like if it gets in your eye. And that was seen as a prank. They thought it was jolly funny. You know, whereas when you break up a fight and you're being hit and kicked, that's more like they're not even noticing you. So that's a kind of different type of thing.
Has there been an escalation, do you think, in terms of the threat and the violence and the aggression that teachers are facing recently?
I think overall in the last few years there's a lot more fear in our schools, and I think that's for a few factors. There's a lot of high staff turnover, supply teachers in schools that don't know the kids. There's a kind of demoralisation of the profession, and there's real pressure on kids and teachers to get really good results. And that leads to these kind of very confrontational situations where you're shouting at a kid, you know, you've got to get on with the work, you're going to fail your exam if you don't, and then the kid can respond and get very, very angry, and often that's how grudges and all sorts of things happen.
But what's the alternative? Just not putting them under pressure and just not making them do their best? I mean, we've had lots of comments from teachers and students, most of them totally in support of what you're saying. But Liam says, look, I'm a teacher and I'm in charge of behaviour at my school. My school doesn't even have swearing. We deal with the smallest of behaviour issues straight away and very severely. All the students are happy and feel safe. This is not difficult to achieve. It's about having high expectations and immediate consequences if even the smallest of rules are broken. A kind of zero tolerance.
I totally agree with that, but you also need to treat children as children and not have it as a prison or a boot camp. So some schools, you know, they've got 30 minutes for lunch and they're being, you know, herded like animals around the school, and they are being treated, and we've got to socialise our children. We've got to make them, you know, into citizens, haven't we? And so just having this military approach can backfire, but I totally agree. You have to have boundaries and zero tolerance for bad behaviour, but it's getting that mix, isn't it?
So what would you like to see happen then, Frances? Because I think if what you've identified is the increase in temporary teachers, and because that's always going to be a problem, isn't it?
Well, I think that, you know, the economy's picking up and lots of people are leaving the profession. You know, 1 in 10 vacancies in schools at the moment. So we do need to put more money in and make it a more attractive profession. We also need to give teachers a lot more trust in a lot of areas, you know, things like the curriculum. I think we need to row back a lot on some of these exams and make them, I don't disagree with exams, but I think we need to make them less important. There's other things that are really important too. So it's, you know, having just a bit more of a balanced attitude, and there's a lot of kind of attacking of teachers generally in the media and politicians, and I just think that that's led to a situation where we're just disrespected and just seen as kind of dirt in some cases.
More discipline, would you think you'd like to see we go back to time when we were all at school and actually the teachers had the power to be more disciplined?
Yes to boundaries, absolutely. But also, I think the best schools I've encountered is where any child feels they can go to the head teacher or a teacher and just talk about their life and what's going on. There's a real barrier between teachers and students at the moment that needs to be countered.
Kirsty says, I'm 16 and I'm currently on study leave, but the level of violence is getting worse. The teachers at her school say that are ill with the stress because of it.
Yeah, Helena, some of my friends are teachers. I can honestly say I'm more worried about their safety than the children's. Teachers try to stop the behaviour, or they get back is swearing, slamming of doors, flipping of tables and chairs. It's clearly a really, really difficult situation that needs addressing. Frances, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah. Coming up, Tears of Happiness brought on by Mr. Happy himself. We've teamed up with